Hello and welcome to the Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 37. You are not broken, stepping into your wholeness. This is all about taking your power back and creating a new story around yourself. Because if you have this belief system that you are broken, that you need fixing, if you are constantly chasing down different modalities to try to fix whatever you feel like is broken inside of you, you're not really creating powerfully. You're just looking at situations as, I have to go figure this out. And when you're in that element of, I have to go figure this out, or I have to get better, or I have to improve, you're in the problem. You're vibrating with the problem, and you're not really looking at the core solutions and the truth of who you really are. Because we've lived this life experience. We've got wounds, we've got traumas, we've got all these things that have happened to us. We have experiences that have created stories within us about ourselves. And because of that, we have created lots and lots of evidence around those stories. So we're going to get into story work today, and like, what is the story that you're wrapping around yourself, around your life experience, and how that is manifesting as you continue to believe it and tell the story and create it. So there's nothing wrong with you. I just want you to know that. Like, my intention in doing this podcast and sharing this information with people is not because I think I know better or because I'm some kind of guru that's going to fix your life. That's not my position here. My whole intention and my excitement for this information is because of what it's done for my life, and because I know the power of it in other people's lives, because I've shared it and I've seen incredible things happen. So my intention is not, I'm here to fix you and there's something wrong with you. My intention always is, you have the brilliance within you. You have this incredible essence within you, and it's to help you to uncover it, to release all the bullshit that's on top of it, so that you can start moving from that wholeness. Because moving from that wholeness and no longer living life in a triggered, wounded state is so freeing and so empowering. And if we were, if the world was that way, if we were all whole, things would be a lot different. People wouldn't be chasing this idea of youth, trying to look young all the time, chasing that, that next injection or that next surgery to try to look young and to try to be validated. So looking for that outside validation puts you in a less than state. And most of it, I would say all of it, comes from within. It's all about how you feel about yourself and what you're allowing, what you're allowing your mind to dwell on. I share a term that I think is really helpful when we're working on separating the mind from our true selves. So, we've got this mind, and it tells us all sorts of things, and it tries to keep us safe, and it tries to keep us the same. The truth is, there's like this energy within us, which I call the shitty committee, that is filled with old past experiences, past judgments, past belief systems, past voices. Like, how often do you hear like your mom's voice in your head? Or people will share with me, and hopefully this is a good thing, that they hear my voice in their head, which is pretty cool. I'm getting in there. I'm infiltrating. But the shitty committee is that part of the mind, that it's the mechanism of the mind to keep you safe and the same. And it's something to be overcome. It's something to be overcome and interrupted and to put down, as far as I'm concerned. I don't have a lot of shitty committee going on anymore. There's still times when I'm dealing with energies and dealing with different things that I need to process through, because, I've shared many times that I am not perfect, and that, I still have processes that I'm going through. I'm still making progress. Expansion and growth is forever. We don't just stop. We just continue to do it. You're never going to get there. So if you're trying to get to some sort of enlightenment where, you're going into your meditation practice and you're trying to get it done and you're trying to get somewhere, you're in the lack of it. So it's about settling back, and meditation really is a letting go process. You're just letting go. You're letting go of everything, the shitty committee, everything, the physical awareness, all of it. You're kind of losing touch with it, so you move into higher consciousness. And when we move into higher consciousness, we connect with that wholeness of who we are, the expression of that infinite energy that's coming through us. And when the more we do that, the stronger that muscle becomes. And soon the shitty committee just becomes like these really small voices that, we can just kick like a little dog to the side. That's where I'm at, just kicking it to the side. Like, that's not true. So when we meditate, we create space. And when we create space, we become at choice. And then we start to become aware of and no longer tune into that shitty committee once you get to the point in your spiritual evolution that you're able to do that. It takes practice. I'm going to be honest, it takes practice. And when you live a life experience and you do things that put yourself down, that whole idea of self-sabotage, which I'm not a big believer in self-sabotage. I think what happens is we just listen to the part of ourself that, wants to keep us safe and the same. I think that's really what it is. And when we're ready to spiritually evolve and we're ready to decide and follow our dreams and become determined, then that voice will start to settle down. It's kind of like taming a wild animal, and it won't have so much power over us. So start noticing, like, start really being aware of that shitty committee. And the shitty committee is like, you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or you can't do that. Anything that tells you you can't do that, that's the limitation of the human experience that we came in with. And that's the voices of your teachers or your parents or whoever tried to steal your dream. So it doesn't need to be part of your experience anymore if you decide. You just have to decide, and then you've got to practice. The practice is meditation, the practice is interruption. And then there's a whole healing process that goes along too, the healing and releasing of the energies that these traumas tend to activate. Okay, so I say okay and so a lot, and I realize that, and I'm going to work on that. I do listen to my shows back, and because I don't do editing, I'm like, okay, that. Yeah, let's just not do that anymore. So we'll see. It's my intro. My okay, so is an intro. So you have a false sense of having to fix yourself. And the reason why you have a false sense of having to fix yourself is because for most of our lives, our parents, our teachers, God bless all of them, they did the best they could with what they knew. They tended to tell us what needed to be fixed. They were looking to shape and mold us into good girls and good boys, good students, successful adults. Like, what do you have to do to be successful? You got to do your chores. You got to go to school and get good grades. You got to go to college. Like, there's a whole agenda plan when we are born into families. And because of that agenda plan, we can oftentimes lose touch with like who we are, like what we want, because we're just trying to please and we're looking to just make everybody else happy. So that's when that voice starts to get buried. And if you're a parent, I would highly suggest that you start helping your child, and listen to my last episode on parenting, episode 36, about helping your child to find their inner guidance. And yes, it may not be what you want it to be. It may not, they may choose, most kids will choose paths that their parents don't really appreciate. And if they don't, I've worked with lots of people that went with their parents' agenda because they didn't feel like they had a choice. They lost touch with their guidance. And then, they're in their 30s and 40s and they're completely miserable in a job that they hate. They may be making lots of money and they may look successful to the world, but they honestly absolutely hate what they're doing. So this is why it's important for us to connect with inner guidance so that we don't create these lives of misery and quiet desperation. We've been told all through growing up, like, what our flaws are, what we need to fix, what we're not good at, right? Like, she's not good at math. Like, that's what grades are all about, right? Did you get D's in math? I did. I struggled with math. There's no doubt about it. The concepts were just like, I think we all have strengths, and writing in English was definitely my strength. So the math thing just kind of eluded me, and it was very challenging for me to understand. So my math grades often suffered. I also had zero interest in it, like zero interest. It made no sense to me. I did not believe I was going to ever do anything with it. So I understand that it's about activating certain pathways in your brain, and math may, serves a purpose. Absolutely. Like my husband who does remodeling construction, he uses algebra all the time. He was super good at math. My daughter who is in remodeling construction is also really good at math. So, we all have our strengths. And then I have daughters that love writing, they love art, it's like we have these gifts and talents, and if our society could turn to um, inspiring us to really work in those gifts and talents, we would grow up very different, and we would probably all be rocking our passions right now and making lots of money doing that. Your experience has proven that you're broken. So you've got evidence, like you've got divorce, you've got estrangement, you've got abandonment, you've got breakups, you've got all sorts of traumas that you've walked through that have told you that you are broken. You feel like you've made mistakes, you've got regrets, you've got resentments, you've possibly given too much and you've been taken advantage of. So, all of those things will lead you to a belief system that says, I am broken. My life is not going, absolutely not going the way I planned. So, because of that, I must be broken. And that belief needs to go in, it needs to go in the trash. We need to get rid of that. We need to incinerate that belief, because that belief will never help you to realize your dreams. It will never help you to fulfill your passions. And it will literally keep you stuck in a wanting to do things, a lack of those things, and not really creating from the identity or believing that you can. So if you don't believe that you can, that is why, because you've got that, shitty committee that you're listening to all the time. Inaction. So a lot of this stuff will lead to inaction because you won't be stepping forward. You won't be stepping forward in your life's path if you're listening to those low self-confidence, low self-esteem traumas. If you're just sitting in that energy field every day and wishing, hoping, and praying that things will change, they may eventually change, because our desires are so strong and our desires create so much energy that it is possible, that you could sit there and something could happen. I had a daughter recently who she got sick. She actually had COVID, and she had quit her job because it was just a terrible job and she hated it. And so she had no job, and then she got COVID. And so, we've got this long gap of time. She wasn't sick for very long. She was actually only sick for a couple of days and then tested negative. And she, we didn't know what she was going to do. She didn't know really what she was passionate about, but she had joined a gym and she started working out and she really loved it. And they offered her a job. So that was pretty cool. She didn't even have to go looking for a job, and she found one. So I thought that was neat, as far as like manifestational, powers, and showing herself how powerful she is. So that does happen, but it's way more fun to have a little bit of action towards it, I think, because of the passion piece of it. When we're really passionate about something and we're moving towards it, our life is going to feel different and we're going to be in a different frequency. When we're in those higher frequencies, a lot of cool things happen, and life just feels really good. Playing victim is a huge piece of us living this less than experience, this belief that we are broken, the belief that our past traumas, that our past life experiences, that the people that we've been around and how our family life played out and how we grew up, that all of that means we're broken. And it's those people's fault. It's their fault that I am the way I am, because they got divorced and they did terrible things, and it's their fault that I wasn't loved and felt secure and felt whole as a child. And there's elements of that, yes, that are true. But the part that I want to unravel for you is the fact that you lived through that, and that powerlessness and that unworthiness means there's a greater capacity over here for you to step into, greater capacity for joy, a greater capacity for your power, to feel your power. Because when we know that what we don't want, when we know that powerlessness, we know even more our power when we step back in. It's just the way of it. It's just the way of it. So, are you on a journey of trying to fix yourself? I've seen this lots of time. In fact, the book Letting Go by David Hawking is really good. Hawkins, I think it's Hawkins or Hawking. It's really good. He shares in the beginning like the 8 million modalities of what we do to try to fix ourselves. And I'm, totally guilty over here. The yoga and the meditation and this healer and this teacher and that teacher and this course and that course. And we get addicted to trying to fix ourselves instead of living our life experience. Do you know those people who get like super addicted to school and degrees and they never really like start living their life? Like they never really go out and get these grand careers because they're too busy, thinking that they need another degree and another degree. It's a mechanism to stay safe and the same to do that. So watch yourself if you're doing that. If you're like, course addicted and looking for the next guru and if you're constantly like trying to feed your body so much information because you feel like, oh, if I just had this, I would get fixed. And if I just did this, I'll be fixed. And everything will be great once I figure this out. Like that's exhausting. That's an exhausting way to live. I don't recommend that. And you're not broken. You're totally not broken. The biggest thing with people and why they think they're broken is because they have like these traumas inside, this energy inside that they've never dealt with. They've never paid attention to it. They're just like running through life, super busy. I'm going to talk about busyness in here. Maybe I'll do it now. You know that, like, people like they're going all the time, like going, 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 and they seem like extroverts, but it's like they're not showing anyone what's going on underneath. They're just super surface because if they do look for what's underneath, then good Lord. But they're also like really triggered because they don't deal with their emotional field. So that busyness, that habitual busyness and overworking and overextending yourself and constantly needing to be with people is because you don't want to look within. And so look at the busyness of your life, and if there are things that you can let go so you can start spending some time by yourself and you can start a meditation practice and start carving out the allowing space, the receiving mode. We can't receive if we're always moving. We can't receive if we're always like trying to manifest and trying to make things happen and being in desperation. That's not receiving mode. Receiving mode is letting go. It's allowing, it's sitting back, it's trusting. It's trusting that you don't constantly need to be in motion. So if you're one of those people, that's something to listen to. If you are the opposite of that, where you need to get moving, then you've got to, look within and see what's going on with that. Like, why am I addicted to just sitting here wishing, hoping, and praying? Ain't going to get me what I want. You got to make a decision. Sometimes you got to leap in faith. Sometimes you got to do crazy shit. But I promise you, when you do that, there will be so much universal support and so many miracles that will happen that you will be super glad you did. And you will wonder why you didn't do it sooner. And the world that we live on, the world that we live in, especially like with the Instagram ads and the Facebook ads and all of this stuff, and a lot of the people that I've watched, the leaders and the coaches and all of that stuff, they come from this framework. And I believe it's an old school way of selling in making people believe that if they don't have your program, that they're never going to go anywhere, that they're never going to do anything with their life. I went to a seminar once. This is so weird. This is popping up. It was a T. Harv Eker, and I was part of a network marketing company, and he came and spoke, and I just loved him. I just thought he was so vibrant and passionate and fantastic, and I loved listening to him. And because we saw him at our convention, we all got free tickets to go to his seminar. Well, he's not at the seminar. Yeah, this is the way some of these guys do this. So he's got, people that he's trained to do these seminars. And it was the biggest shit show I have ever seen. In fact, I did something so dumb at this seminar. And it was because I felt less than. It was because, we were going through a lot of financial struggle, and I needed a fix. I needed to fix somebody to help me figure this out, to stop this, constant feeling like our life was blowing up before us. And they sold their programs, and their selling tactics were just brutal. I mean, basically, not word for word, but the energy of it was, you are a total idiot if you don't buy our program, and you will never go anywhere in your life if you don't buy our program. And the program, I want to say, was like either $5,000 or $10,000. So we were in no position to do that. But they were selling other things, like smaller things, just to sell stuff, right? So they had these jugs. This is so funny. They had these jugs, and they were talking about having jugs for different areas of your life, and you would put money in these jugs. So like, one was for entertainment, one was to pay yourself, one was for your bills, and there was like four jugs, I think, and they were like $25 or $30. This was such a joke. And I like jump out of my seat because I'm thinking, this is the one thing that I can do. I can go buy these jugs, and I can do that. I can separate my money out. I never did it. So my husband was cracking up. Here I have these jugs. I'm like walking around with these plastic jugs, my jugs. It was a joke. But it was that energy of being less than. And a lot of these coaches and gurus, that's what they play on. They play on your weakness of feeling like you're broken and you need some sort of fix. I will never do that to you. I will never ever make you feel that way, or make you feel like you need my stuff, or you need my book, or you need to listen. You don't even need to listen to my podcast. But I'm going to say, if you are listening to my podcast, there are things being inserted. There's awareness, there's activation, there's energies in these messages that is all about reminding you who you are. Not about what I teach or what I believe in necessarily. It's about, who are you? That's what I want to get to. Who are you anyway, and who do you want to be? And where's the gap? Where's the gap between I'm here and I want to be here? How can we fill in the gap? How can you take a step in the gap, a step towards where you want to go? And that's the intention there. I grew up, this is a really good one. So generational belief systems, like generational patterns and cycles, and generational diseases, right? We've got this belief system out there that things are genetic, that alcoholism is genetic, that cancer is genetic, that heart disease is genetic, all of these things. And you do not have to agree with me on this, but I call bullshit on all of it. I absolutely do. Because if we look at the science of our bodies and what is produced through our belief systems, we create everything. So the reason I believe people get genetic diseases and genetic patterns is because they believe it. They believe it. They give their power over to it. Like Angelina Jolie, like taking off her boobs. Like, she didn't even have cancer, but they convinced her that she had this genetic code for it, and that if she didn't do that, she was going to end up with cancer. And to me, that just seems insanity. Like, that's crazy to me. So you do not have to buy into the belief systems of our society that are going to cause you to be less than, and going to cause you to create disease or connections to generational cycles that you feel powerless within. Alcoholism is another one, and I do believe that, look, I know that I've said this in my addiction thing, like, alcohol is an addictive substance. Drugs are an addictive substance. If you're going to partake in any of those things, you are going to be subject to addiction. It doesn't mean you are, have to be an alcoholic like your dad was, because you have the ability for choice. You can choose. You can absolutely choose the way you think, the way you believe, and the actions that you take. And there's been plenty of people who have gotten off of drugs and who have gotten off of alcohol because they decided, because they created a success plan, because they did the things that they need to do to get off of those things. So nothing is beyond our reach, and nothing is beyond our power. And when we believe that it is, we put ourselves at an extreme disadvantage, and we live through lack and limitation. So we got to take that power back. So you have different thoughts, you have different feelings, you have different beliefs, you eat different foods, you move different than your parents, you do different things. The way the world works now, there's so much access to health. I know it doesn't seem that way, but there is so much access to health that we can create a completely different picture for ourselves by cleaning up our diets, by exercising, by promoting our health, by meditating. Good Lord. Meditating changes your cellular structure. It changes the way your cells behave. Yes, it does. Look it up. Joe Dispenza does a lot of stuff on this, and in the neural pathways of the brain. He's done studies of what happens to your brain when you meditate. Greg Braden as well. He teaches, that they've shrunk cancer cells with meditation. So there we have the ability to take our power back in a lot of different ways, and we have to start doing it from a place of like solution and not problem. Like taking our boobs off because we think we're going to get breast cancer. Like, okay, maybe that was right for her. So I'm not going to judge her for that. But maybe there's other options besides being so drastic and listening to what I will call an agenda. Enough of that. Okay. You have a different life than your parents, than your grandparents, and you have a different destiny. We all have different destinies. I believe in destiny. I don't know if you do. What I believe about destiny is I believe that there's paths for us. I believe that there's growth and expansion that we wanted to experience here. And because of that, I can look at people's stories and go, that's what they came here. That's what they came here for. Like they came here at that part of their spiritual evolution to experience that. There's a really great book called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, and it was about a woman whose brother was extremely troubled. They called him Billy Fingers because I think he used to steal a lot, and he was a drug addict, and he just had a lot of issues in his life, and he couldn't quite get it together. People like that, they've got a lot of gifts, but they just can't like either get off the drugs or get off the alcohol or just get it together. And he came back through her. Like he died and then he started like connecting with her from non-physical. And I don't know if you believe this, and it doesn't matter if you do. It was something to contemplate. I kind of find it very cool. So he came back through her and she wrote a book for him about that. And it's definitely woo woo, like it's way out there in the spiritual realm, but it made me understand so much like why someone would come here and experience a life like that. And yeah, it's good stuff. It is. It actually helped me to understand death a little more, and just to not to be so afraid. I think it did. It released some fears for me. If you have a habit of feeling or believing you are broken, this is what you can do. So if you're walking through life, you feel like you need a fix, you feel like you need to be fixed, you feel like you need the answer, and you're searching. This was me for so long. I was spiritually seeking. I was, in the Catholic Church, and I felt like I had so many questions and I felt unsatisfied about the answers there, and certain things did not make sense to me. The fact that we're like born as sinners, like that did not make sense to me. So that unworthiness piece, I am not worthy, and it's like, oh man, that was a trippy one for me. That was one that I came to understand that I couldn't swallow anymore, literally. Not saying anything bad, but I'm just saying I just couldn't do it. So these are the things you can do. First and foremost, start a meditation practice so we can start creating space. Now, if you have felt like this is hard for you, I do have a teaching on my website, www.livelifegolden.com. There's a teaching there for you and a guided meditation. There's tons of guided meditations on YouTube. There's the Calm app. There is M21 Revolution on Facebook. We're almost done with a 21-day challenge, but you can start it. You can go in there and you can click day 1, November 2021 challenge, and you can start with day 1. We're always in there. We're always supporting, and there's great information about how to start a meditation practice. So that's on Facebook. Just ask to join and we'll let you in. The challenges are donation based. So if you get a lot of value out of it and you want to exchange some energy, that would be awesome. The links are there for a donation. Start noticing and becoming aware of that shitty committee. So start noticing it, start like going, oh, that voice that like when I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror and I go, ugh, oh, yikes, I'm getting so old, or I'm fat, or whatever it is, right? Whatever you're dealing with, or I'm not smart, or I'm nervous about this interview because I don't think I have what it takes, or I don't think I'm going to have the information. All those different pathways, we'll call them, neural pathways are tuned into this committee that wants to keep you safe and the same. And it's reaped in old stories, old beliefs, and people who were out of alignment with who they were. And so they had to point out all of your flaws to try to make themselves feel better. Notice the energy in which you do things. So become a good noticer. And the only way really to become a good noticer is if you've got that space. So you disconnect from the monkey mind, that mind that is constantly telling you what to do and where to go and how to do it and what's this and judging and all of that stuff. When you create that space and you get a little bit of bliss and you get a little bit of nothingness and you get that what quantum physics calls zero state awareness, when you break free and you get into higher consciousness, then you can start being an observer of your life. There's a book out called Untethered Soul on this by Michael Singer. I loved it. There's some things I don't agree with, but for the most part, that idea that we are not our minds blew my mind. Wait, I'm not my mind and I don't have to think those shitty thoughts anymore? Hang on a second. I have a choice in this? What? Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. And it is probably the most freeing thing I've ever experienced. The most freeing thing I've ever tuned into, believed, and applied to my life. And I share with others. I help people with mind training all the time. And it is phenomenal. It really is. Healing those wounds. So if you're noticing what energy you're doing things from, you're going to get in touch with the wounds. So if you're triggered, if you're living from a wounded state, if you're one of those people that can really go from 0 to 60 where you're yelling at strangers or you're in your car flipping people off. I have definitely chilled out with my road rage. I used to have a lot of it. And interestingly, I've slowed way down. And of course, I got a speeding ticket, which helped that process. But I was in the process of that even before, just recognizing where the hell am I going? What is my hurry all the time? Can I just relax? Can I just drive normal? Do I have to in California, there's a lot of cars. There's a lot of stop lights and there's just a lot going on. So you're always trying to get ahead of somebody and hit the green light and get to the light before it turns red. So I've just really worked on being more aware of that and kind of slowing down when I drive. Really good idea. Really good idea. Just to be more aware. It could save your life. It could literally save your life. So when you're looking at the energy and what am I doing this from? Am I doing this from a wound? Am I doing this from desperation? Am I doing this in the problem? Am I in the problem? When you ask these questions, you will get answers. And you can journal about this or you can just sit in quiet and let the answers come. Sometimes the answers come later in the day. But when you start asking, it means you're in a relationship with yourself. It means you care. And because you care, you're going to get the answers. And because you're curious, because you're inquiring, the answers have to come. They have to come. And if you've got a whole bunch of stuff on top of it, it's a little harder to find the answers. I've got a lot of people that live in this kind of confusion and I don't really know what I want, but they really do. The real bread and butter of that is asking the right questions. I'm pretty good at that, asking the right questions. So I do writing prompts with my groups and the questions are gold because the questions help you acknowledge where you are. And once you know where you are, then you have to look at where do I want to be? And then we've got to fill in that gap. So we got to see what that looks like as far as creating the identity of what's over here and releasing what's over here because we don't want to be that anymore. So how do we do that? So it lends to a lot of answers and a lot of the downloads that come from being curious, from asking, from having that relationship with the infinite being of the universe, source, God, whatever you like to call it. It's having that time and attention to allow that voice to be heard. Ask within if this is an addiction to keep you safe and the same. So a lot of our lives are just an addiction. They're an addiction to adrenaline. They're an addiction to being busy. They're an addiction to shopping. They're an addiction to not feeling our emotions, basically. And oftentimes our emotions can be an addiction as well. I have another episode on that. I think it was 30. What are we on now? 37. I think it was 35. Good stuff. Good stuff. Notice when you feel less than and what it is attached to. So these are the things that can contribute to you feeling less than. And I've noticed this in my own life experience, and it's really interesting what happens when you start looking at these things and deciding that you no longer want to feel that way. Comparison. Are you comparing yourself to people? Yeah, the jealousy and comparison, like when you see somebody doing something really well and it's something that you may have considered doing in your life or you'd like to do it in your life, but you're not doing it, that can make you feel less than. Energies of not feeling like you're good enough, there's a lot of that. Yeah, there's a lot because we haven't really, unless you grew up in a family of like wonderful parents who always told you how amazing you were, then, and oftentimes we don't even believe our parents when they do that. There's just these energies within. I think it comes from like being a teenager, being an adolescent, dealing with playground bullies, all of that stuff just contributing to us feeling less than, right? And seeing, having low self-esteem and low self-confidence coming through our teenage years, and then that kind of bleeding out into our adulthood as we create more evidence of it. So we don't feel good about ourselves, so people then reflect what we don't feel good about ourselves. Happens all the time. You don't matter. Yeah, there's a lot of that happening where, our voices are shut down. Our parents didn't really ask our opinions very much. I don't think, at least mine didn't. And the, parenting, there's no like teaching. There's no teaching on, I mean, there's plenty of books and stuff, but there's no like course that we have to go through to be good parents. And many people are just winging it, and they're winging it from their wounds and they're winging it from their traumas. And so there isn't a lot of connection to, what's going on with you, and asking, being asked as a child what's going on in our inner guidance, and really connecting with that. And because of that, many of us have become disconnected and have had trouble connecting with like what our truth is and what we really want and what really matters to us. We've just become these people pleasers, and we've lived in obligations, and we've lost the ability, not lost, but we've disconnected from the ability to really know what's right for us. So let's get back to that. Rejection. Do you have the rejection thing going on? Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Do you have that? Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Well, what I would say about that is if you're feeling left out, that's an invitation to go within and ask and to heal that wound, because it started somewhere. Most likely when you were little, it started. You've seen cycles of it throughout your life, right? That feeling of being left out. You know what my energy is on being left out or not being included, or anything that goes along with that, people not contacting me or ignoring me or whatever, right? The energy that I have with that, and I don't experience rejection because of this, I believe, is its vibrational alignment. It's vibrational alignment. We are just not on the same plane. And that is the truth. There's like the energy fields are different. Like I am in a totally different place in my life than that person is. And because they didn't rise with me, because they didn't come with me, we're going to miss each other. And there's not going to be a lot of reaching out or trying to get together. It's true. Before I moved to California, there were many, many times that I was in the grocery store and I literally felt invisible because I was already in California. I swear, energetically, I had already left the building. So I wouldn't take it personally. And that's a beautiful, freeing way to release yourself from taking shit personally. It's beautiful. It's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Can we let go of it? Because if you can let go of it and not take anything personally and just be like, whatever, I got my life over here. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. I don't need anything from that situation. And if it's vibrational alignment, I really like hanging out with people that are vibrationally aligned with me. That feels really good. And forcing relationships that don't necessarily feel good is not something that I'm interested in anymore. And if you're coming from a lackful place where you don't have a lot of that friendships or connections, there could be that desperate energy and you're just chasing people who you're not really connecting with, you're not aligning with. That happened to me a lot here in California through the last 6 years. And I finally feel like I've got people that I just adore and can have a really good time with. And I don't have to get intoxicated or be someone I'm not. I can just completely be myself. And it is so freeing. So, how much of yourself are you dumbing down for other people just because you're trying to salvage relationships that probably are already over? Ask yourself. Resistance to self and current situation. So, are you resistant to the energy of yourself? Are you resistant to your desires? Are you resistant to moving forward? Are you scared? That resistance can activate a lot of fear, and it can cause you to not really like step in, right? Resistance, like you're resisting your situation, you're resisting yourself and who you truly are by constantly trying to push down that voice of desire and that motion forward, that movement forward. So if you want to get rid of resistance, just ask yourself, what am I fighting against? Resistance is fighting against. What am I fighting against, and where is it getting me, and is it really serving me? If you're in the world view right now and you're looking a lot outside of yourself and you're resisting everything that's happening, or you're trying to like gather things because you're afraid of what's going to happen, that's an energy, that's a frequency, and you're going to tune into that radio station, and it's going to give you more reasons to feel that fear and resistance. So just let go, just relax, just no longer feel the need to fight what's happening, because the acceptance of what's happening is actually what moves the energy field. So just accept it and just be like, it is what it is. And I know that I'm a powerful creator, so I can decide what happens next based on how I'm responding to this situation. And if I'm accepting it, and then I'm deciding what I want to happen next, then I'm going to start activating that energy and cool stuff is going to happen. Acknowledging where you are and why you think and behave, like not having self-awareness, is a huge part of, I think, the world's problem. Is people aren't really self-aware. They don't really understand why they're doing what they're doing. They're living these cycles over and over again, and they're at a loss. They're like, I'm so tired of feeling this way, but I have no clue how to change it. And if you're here, I think you've gotten some answers, and that's awesome. If you have no desire for change, you're just in this very low level, maybe depression, maybe drug addiction, maybe alcohol addiction, and you're just living. I mean, it's going to take a decision. It's going to take a decision, and um, it's going to just take a few steps of doing something different to start to change the energy field. If you're living the same story over and over again, man, that's the definition of insanity if you're expecting different results. Running through life, chasing the next thing, the next relationship, the next great job, the next, I don't know, whatever it is that you've been chasing. First of all, when you're chasing shit, it's running away from you. And second of all, the grass is always greener on the other side is not true. The grass is the grass. And oftentimes we're just not appreciating where we are. And because of that, we can create some real crap in our lives and never really be satisfied, never really be happy, because we are always believing that there's something else. We're always believing that, we got to get there. We got to do something different. Watch your stories. We're going to get into story work a little bit today. So look at your life and look at the stories that you've wrapped around yourself. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. I recently had a thing about not being organized. Yeah. So I've had some issues with organization, as far as like, I'm running all these groups and I've got writing prompts and I've got slideshows, and they're just constantly eluding me and I can't find them, and they're all not in the same place. And so I'm actually going to work with someone on this, which I'm excited about. And I believe that I am organized. I do believe that. I mean, I have a lot of evidence in my life that I am organized. For a little while, I was messing up appointments all the time. And now I've gotten super conscious about that. And I've gotten really aware and I double check things and I text people and I'm working on not moving so fast so that, and not assuming, because I would like assume and I'd think, oh yeah, that's right. I almost did it again with my hair appointment. I was looking at my calendar and I thought it was on I thought it was on Tuesday and it was on Wednesday. And luckily I caught it. And luckily I didn't have anything going on because I was still able to do it. But I have screwed up, oh my God, so many hair appointments. So I have a really great hairdresser now who's very understanding, which is nice, but I don't want to do that anymore. So I had to make a decision about, well, if you don't want to do this anymore, what can you do differently? I can double check. I can look again. I can put it in my calendar. I can look at my calendar and make sure. I can text him and confirm, and that's what I did. So I'm in control here, right? So these are some of the stories that we tell ourselves. Like, I am not, so I am not organized. I gotta get organized. Are there things you're saying I gotta do? I gotta do that. God, please stop. Please stop. If you're like, I gotta, please stop. Just do it. Because gotta is just not, gotta doesn't get it. It doesn't get it. You gotta just go do it. Like, how many things on your list are like gottas? I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Do you do that to yourself? Because I do. And then I'll have these days where I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I'm getting them done. I'm getting them done. I'm getting them done. And I love when I do that. I love when I can just hyper focus and get it all done so that it's no longer this mental minutia that's taking up room in my brain and stealing my joy. That's what it is when you put shit off. So it's like the second you think about it, if you just get her done, if you just go do it, like, oh, I got to order this thing off of Amazon. I'm going to do it right now. Done. Boom. Done. Amazon's so easy. I'm getting better. I need to get better. All of those things are going to keep you apart. So if you really want to create success with something, it's I am. I am. And, mantras only work to a certain degree. If you don't truly believe them, then they don't necessarily work. But it starts to change the subconscious. It starts to change the way you feel when you start saying that. I am organized. I am organized. Does your story keep you creating the same scenarios? Because you take yourself everywhere you go. So you could move across the country and create the same relationships, the same job, the same scenarios because you never cleaned up the vibration underneath. You never cleaned up the emotions that you really have going on within underneath. And that's what this work is all about. It's about going within and asking yourself, why do I keep these cycles going? Why do I keep creating these shitty relationships? Why do I keep attracting friends who make me feel rejected? They're just reflecting how you feel inside. So you got to go within if you really want to clean that up. You take yourself with you wherever you go. So Ted Lasso is one of my favorite shows. We are actually watching it for the third time. Never done that with a show before. The second time we watched it with subtitles, and that was great because we had missed a lot. There's so much gold in that show. I can't even say it enough. It's on Apple TV. Totally worth paying for the thing. Seriously, it is the best show I think I've ever seen. The messages, the energy, the upliftment, it's all so powerful. It's such a powerful show. But one of my favorite lines that he ever said was, he was talking about a goldfish. And he said a goldfish has a 10-second memory. And he told one of his players, he said, be a goldfish. And I thought that was so cool because we constantly relive shit. And because of that, we create from it. So it's like, oh, that happened to me last time. I'm not going to let it happen to me again. So I'm just not going to do it. It keeps us from doing so much. It keeps us from being powerful creators in this moment and creating things differently. Listen, our energy creates. The way we respond to things creates the next moment. We have right here, right now, which is a totally fresh moment. The reason why it doesn't feel fresh is because you've got all this momentum. You've got all this energy infused into this moment because most of us are dragging the past with us. We don't want to drag the past. We don't want to drag the past energies. So those stories about I'm broke, I've always been broke. I'm unlucky, I've always been unlucky. Those stories are creating with my luck. Oh, I cringe when people say that. And they're always talking about it being bad luck. With my luck, things will go wrong. Have you heard people say that? If you're saying that, please stop. Please, please. Do you want things to go wrong for you? You do not. You do not. So you have to let that go. So, because your life is created from right now and you have the ability to move away from those energies that you no longer want to be a part of, it's a process. It's not like you're going to flip some kind of switch. You could. That's quantum leaping all day long. I love it. But, if you're not looking within, if you're not going underneath. So, when my husband and I were moving to right before we moved to California, we had gone through a ton of financial struggle, like a few years of like massive struggle, not being able to buy groceries, only being able to put a few bucks in the gas tank, bankruptcy, foreclosure of our home, everything you could, repossession of cars, 2 cars repossessed, everything you could imagine that we went through. And through that, my husband had decided he didn't want to build anymore. So he just kind of like stopped for a little while, which was frightening. And we were doing network marketing. So we thought we could really make it with that, but we were not at the point to make it with that yet. So we would go for walks and we would try to be in joy and try to be happy, right? Like universal law. If I'm happy and I feel good, then everything's fine. We've got all this fear underneath. We've got all these emotions we're not dealing with. We're losing our shit underneath and trying to pretend that we weren't. And because of that, things kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so you cannot trick yourself out of your circumstance. You've got to look at it. You've got to get real about it. We had to get real about it. What the hell are we doing? Right? Like this, and we were really trying to prove, because we were so new to the universal law game, we were really trying to prove that it worked. And did it work? I mean, the process that we had to go through was quite painful, but I will say everything that we wanted manifested. Every single thing. And we had to go through the fire and we had to go through fear and we had to leap in faith, but it all worked out. So yeah, it does work. But it does help if you can go within and heal. So this is the process. Meditate. Meditate, meditate, meditate. Meditate to clear your slate. You can listen to guided meditations, you can listen to music. I don't care. Just work on getting behind the mind. Work on letting go of the mind. Work on getting into the body and moving into higher consciousness where the slate is clear. It's clean. Zero state awareness. Heal and release. So ask yourself, how do I feel? Go within this little heart space here and ask, like, what am I really feeling today? What do I really feel about this? And get real about what you feel. When you get real about what you feel, you start to heal. I love this. Dr. Seuss here. You start to get the ability to release it, to ask from within, to ask from without, to allow you to release these energies and just breathe them out. Focus on breathing them out, get them out of your body, or journal them. Journaling is a great way to release. When you acknowledge and get honest about where you are, then you have the ability to go somewhere else. If you are not acknowledging and you are just pretending that everything is okay, you are still creating from underneath, from those cycles, those vibrations underneath. The universal law falsehoods of, there's those falsehoods of universal law that you can sit in your house and attract a Ferrari. There are falsehoods about universal law that say all I need to do is think of something and it will be created. There's an element to that is true, but there are other pieces of it that are being left out, which is energetic connection, identity creation, vibrational alignment, putting yourself in the best possible frequency to create those things. It's not laying on the couch watching Netflix. That's not what does it. It's putting yourself in a higher frequency of love, appreciation, joy, trust, faith. All of that stuff is an activation. So if you're really scared that you're going broke and you're not doing anything about it, you're going to go broker. You're going to go broker because you feel broke. So the only thing you can get is more brokenness. You are not broke. You are absolutely not broke. There is so much abundance in this world that if you're seeing evidence of it outside of you, that means it's in your field. So you just got to tune into it. And you got to look at your life and ask yourself, where do I feel abundant? How can I feel abundant? ooh, what feels like abundance to me? What feels like joy? We just decorated our house for Christmas yesterday. I'm almost done. I'm not quite done. It takes me a little while. It takes me like 2 weekends to finish it. And it's just joy. It just feels like joy. And people are like, oh, you're doing it too early. In fact, some guy on Facebook said to my husband, oh my God, what was it? It was so funny. Um, Pre-ejaculation illumination, I think it was called. It was pretty funny. And I was like, you know what? When the inspiration strikes to do the Christmas decorations, you just gotta go with it. You can't fight it. And people get all bunged up that it's too early. It's too early to decorate for Christmas. Why are we doing that now? I'm like, why are we fighting it? It's like, it's so joyful. It's so wonderful to see Christmas lights. I love it. Why are we upset about that? We've got Christmas music going all day yesterday. Kids were loving it. They're like, thank you guys so much for doing this. This is so great. We had, the balsam fir candle going. It was just, it's just joy. It's joy. Every year at Christmas for us, the energy of Christmas activates a lot of joy. We're with our girls. We're having fun. It's the holidays. My husband takes some time off from work. It's just wonderful. Why would we fight that? So silly. So silly. Create new belief systems and turn yourself in the direction of what is wanted. When you do this, when you connect with where you are and realize where you want to go, and you start turning your attention to that, this is what I want. This is what I want, and start paying attention to like what sparks that little part of joy in you. Like when you start feeling like, ooh, lit up, or you're talking about something, you feel like you could talk about it forever, like me on this show. Yeah, when you get there, oh my goodness, pay attention to those things. There are energies in that. Or ask yourself, like, what got you really excited as a kid? Like, what did you do as a kid? What were you doing when you were pretending as a kid? For me, I was a school teacher. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'm not a school teacher, but I like teaching. I really like teaching, and I really like sharing information. So it really is kind of the same thing. Also, writing. I loved writing. I wrote 2 books. Hello, on my website. Yep, 2 books. One is Quantum Speak, and it's the science and spirituality of manifesting. It's our story from moving from California to here. And Quantum Speak for Parents, which is energetic parenting, which I also just did an episode on, which if you're a parent, it's very helpful, extremely helpful. In fact, I listen to it today because sometimes I need reminding of this stuff. All right, so here's a big statement. You may want to write this one down. Got a pen? Write this down. Your destiny is connected to your heart's desires. Your destiny is connected to your heart's desires. And if you're thinking to yourself, I don't even know what my heart desires, that's an invitation. That's an invitation to go within and start asking, start getting inquisitive, start wondering. Like if you're at a point in your life where you're listening to this podcast, you got space. You got space to start creating and start taking your power back. So what does that look like? Start contemplating, what does that look like? I got the whole vision in my mind for where my life is going, and it feels fantastic. And I activate it. Maybe not every single day, but for most days, I will contemplate that for a few minutes. I will activate that energy. I will ask myself, what can I do in this moment that will get me closer to that? And it's not that I'm broken, and it's not that I'm far away from it, and it's not that I'm in the lack of it. It's like I'm just activating the energy of it. So those desires are important. There's a reason why you have those desires, and it's not one of the issues that I see with people is like they're like, "Oh, I want to be rich. I just want to win the lottery. All my problems will go away if I win the lottery." And or if somebody could just give me money. Everything would be fine if somebody just gave me money. And it is disempowering to believe that. It really is. What you really really want in your life, you want to find your passion. You want to find your joy, and you want to get paid abundantly for that. So that's where we're going. So look for that passion, look for that joy. It's there. Everybody's got it. I don't even ever want to believe that someone was put on this earth without the ability to have that. So I trust in that expression, and I trust that we are this infinite expression of God, universe, source. And because of that, we are meant to create. We are meant to be creators. We are meant to have these desires. We are meant to move forward in those desires. And that's so cool and so fun. And I just want everybody along on that journey because it's a freaking blast. It's an absolute blast to get up every day and be excited about life and what I'm creating and what I can offer and how I can help lead people to that inner guidance and to that inner brilliance that you were put here to experience. So that's my show for today. I got through all my notes. This is where the fun is my notebook. This is where the fun stuff happens. So I just started this new little experience with myself, this new little, I think it's just becoming a thing. On Mondays, I've been doing this body work with this amazing guy, Lawrence. He's wonderful. My partner, Jess, in M21 told me about him. And he kind of helps you like realign your whole body by just doing fascial work and then giving you exercises to facilitate that. And we have these amazing, like leading edge conversations. It's so great. In fact, his next appointment came today and he was like, "Aw." And I felt the same way. I was like, "Oh, man, we need to like go get coffee so we can just like chat it up. But he has an interesting way of looking at things. I don't think that we believe the same things, but I do think I might have a little influence on him, like with what I believe. So I finish with him, and because I'm so close to the ocean, I just walk down to the ocean on Main Beach in Laguna, which is one of my favorite places, and I just write my little podcast out. I sit there and look at the ocean waves, and that's Monday now, and that's an amazing way to spend your Monday. So I hope that my pictures don't offend you or make you feel jealous. I hope that they just inspire you to want to live your dreams and to leap in faith, because if I can do it, you can absolutely do it. And I can tell you that we were behind the gun when we did it, and things really worked out well, better than expected, and they continue to surprise and delight us. So I love you all. Peace.